You ever see a man get stripped of his dignity by the snap of a stick? Not a punch, not a bullet, just one old cane broken in half by a cop who didn't care who he was, just what he looked like. That's how the morning started for Elijah Booker. 76 years old, blind since '91, walked the same route every day through Ashford Green Park in South Carolina. Rain fog didn't matter. Always in that same olive jacket. Always tapping along with a wooden cane carved by the same woman who once said yes to marrying him. His wife Lena. Gone 10 years now. To strangers, Elijah was invisible. Just another slow step in a fast world. People walked past earbuds and lattes up, never thinking twice. But that morning, someone did. Elijah had just reached the south edge of the park cobblestone path, mist curling like breath from the earth when he heard the boots. They weren't running boots or jogging, no dog leash jingle, just slow, heavy, controlled. Elijah tensed. Barely. A shift in the air. A cold stillness crept into the breeze. And then the voice. "Sir, what are you doing out here?" The tone clipped. Suspicious. Like Elijah had trespassed into his own life. He turned his head slightly, not to see he couldn't, but to meet the voice with respect. "Just walking," he said. Calm. Clear. Same as I do every morning. "You out here alone?" That question didn't ask anything. It accused. Elijah's fingers closed tighter around the cane, not in fear, in habit, in memory. "I know this park better than most," he said. "Walked it for 20 years. Well, maybe that's the problem. It was almost a whisper, but the poison was loud. That's when Officer Kyle Redford, badge number 608, stepped closer and snatched the cane from Elijah's hand. The old man gasped, reaching, but he was too late. Crack! That sound split the morning in two, like something sacred had just been killed. Elijah froze, his hand still hanging in the air. The cane, his last tie to Lena, lay in two pieces at his feet. "Next time, don't act smart," the officer muttered. "Some folks won't be as patient as me." And just like that, he turned his back and walked off. People saw. A woman clutching her toddler's hand stopped, eyes wide, then turned her stroller and walked faster. A college kid with earbuds slowed down, blinked, then kept jogging. And a man in a blue jacket, coffee in one hand, phone in the other, shook his head and whispered, well, he probably said something before walking off. But one person didn't walk away. Marcus, 19, local barista, black, nervous, hidden behind his cart. His hands shook as he hit record. He didn't think he was being brave. He just knew it was wrong. He'd seen this kind of thing before in stories his grandmother told, in posts he'd shared. But this time, it wasn't a repost. It was right in front of him. That night, Elijah sat by his window, broken cane across his lap like a shattered bone. He didn't cry, didn't yell. He just traced the splinters with his fingers, like braille carved in cruelty. But the silence around him wasn't quiet. It roared. He remembered the silence from before. The silence in '67 when he was shoved out of a diner in uniform because the waitress didn't serve coloreds in boots. The silence at Fort McKinley when his own drill sergeant made him strip down in the snow for discipline. The silence when Lena miscarried their second child and no one from the hospital said her name again. Elijah had carried those silences like stones, deep in his chest. But now, after that snap, those stones shifted. Something opened. Something burned. That cane was more than a walking stick. It was proof that he'd survived, that he'd loved, that he still had a right to stand. When Marcus showed up later that day, holding his phone, his hands trembling, he couldn't even speak. He just pressed play. The crack of the cane filled the room again. Louder this time. Elijah didn't flinch, just nodded. "You did something brave," he told the boy. Marcus shook his head. "I should have said something. I should have stepped in." Elijah placed a hand on his shoulder, firm, not shaking. "You did," he said. "You made it so they can't say it didn't happen." But the next day, things got worse. The video went online anonymously, just titled, "He Was Blind." It took off fast. Locals reshared it. Activists reposted it. Comments exploded. But something else happened too. The opposite of what you'd expect. A few folks online, burner accounts mostly called Elijah dramatic, said maybe he threatened the officer. Some even joked about the cane being a weapon. Even worse, some of the people in the park started speaking up to defend the officer. One woman from the stroller group wrote, "It was confusing in the moment. You don't know the full story." Another witness, a jogger, said, "I thought maybe the old guy had raised his voice. The officer seemed calm. But there was one man, Scott Harris, blue jacket, the coffee drinker. He went viral too. Someone dug up security footage showing him nearby. People began tagging him. Instead of apologizing, he doubled down. People get too sensitive," he tweeted. "You weren't there. You didn't hear what the old man said." Meanwhile, Marcus was scared. After the video blew up, someone threw a brick through his coffee cart window with a note, "Snitches get stitches." He told Elijah he might delete the video. He didn't want trouble. And Elijah, he didn't tell him to fight. He didn't beg him to keep going. He just walked into the back room, opened a locked drawer, and pulled out a photo. Lena, holding their baby boy. "My son's name is Ruben," he said. "He's a lawyer in D.C. He's taken down banks, judges, the kind of folks who smile for cameras but rot from the inside." Marcus blinked. "You're his dad?" Elijah nodded, voice calm. "And now I think it's time he came home." Reuben Booker didn't take a flight. He took a mission. By nightfall, he was in Ashford. Tan trench coat, tired eyes, and a fire in his chest that hadn't burned this hot since his first federal trial. But this wasn't about his job. It wasn't about law. It was about his father. Elijah didn't ask for war, but someone declared it by touching something sacred. When Reuben arrived, he didn't knock. He walked straight into his childhood home and found Elijah sitting in silence, cane splintered beside him like the bones of a fallen flag. "You kept it," Reuben said. Elijah didn't look up, just nodded once, not out of sentiment, out of principle. Reuben sat. The silence between them was heavy, but not empty. "Tell me everything," he said. And Elijah did. By morning, Ashford was buzzing. Reuben had filed an official complaint with the state's Civil Rights Division, sent the video to national media, and pulled every string he had from former judges to veteran coalitions. He knew how to turn fire into headlines, but what he wanted was a courtroom. Meanwhile, Officer Kyle Redford. He was cracking. Behind his confident posture and tightly buttoned collar, the pressure was eating at him. His captain called. Internal Affairs launched a preliminary review. Someone had tagged his wife's job in a viral thread. He couldn't sleep, couldn't think, but he still refused to admit fault. "I was doing my job," he barked to the mirror, fists clenched on the sink. He could have had something. He could have. His own voice trembled. Deep down, he knew he'd crossed a line, not because of a threat, but because Elijah reminded him of someone, his grandfather, also blind, also stubborn, also black. But Kyle had spent years burying that part of himself, the part that once sat on his grandfather's lap, listened to old jazz, and learned to tie a tie. He buried it under fear uniform and the kind of policing that rewards control over compassion. Now that part of him clawed at the surface. The town divided. Some defended Kyle, old neighbors, Facebook uncles, the usual crowd who said, "This isn't racism, it's misunderstanding." Others rallied for Elijah. But the most powerful shift came from the ones in the middle, people who saw what had happened, the mother with the stroller. She returned to the park, quietly placed a bouquet of sunflowers beside the bench Elijah once sat at, the jogger. He sent a message to Marcus. "I should have said something. I'm sorry." Even Scott, the man with the coffee, showed up to a town hall trembling, asked to speak, then broke down crying before he got a word out. Ashford was waking up. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, locals, activists, police in uniform. Elijah walked in, slow, measured, with a repaired cane, not to replace the broken one, but to carry its story forward. Every step echoed across marble tile like a heartbeat. On the stand, he didn't speak like a victim. He spoke like a survivor. "This," he said, lifting the old splintered cane, "was the last gift my wife ever gave me. You didn't just break wood, you broke memory." Then came Marcus. Still shaking, but firmer now. I was scared, but I knew if I didn't record, no one would believe him. His voice cracked, and I couldn't let that happen. Finally, Kyle Redford took the stand. At first, his jaw was tight, his tone defiant. "I followed protocol," he said. "You didn't follow empathy," Reuben countered. "Calm, but cutting. You saw an old black man walking alone, and you saw threat." Kyle's eyes flickered. He started, but then stopped. Something in his expression cracked. "I thought he was mocking me," he muttered. He answered too, calm. like he wasn't afraid of me. That pissed me off. The room froze. Kyle exhaled sharply. I don't know why that scared me, but it did. It wasn't a defense. It was a confession. The judge leaned forward, silent, measured, then nodded. The verdict wasn't about prison time. It was about principle. Kyle was discharged, barred from police work, ordered to attend restorative justice sessions and face the community. But the real victory was what came after. Ashford renamed the park's south end Booker Way. A new bench stood beneath an oak tree, on it engraved in bronze. This is where silence broke. At the dedication, Elijah sat beside Reuben and Marcus. The cane rested across his lap, scarred but whole. Around them people gathered. Some smiled, some cried, and some just watched, with the kind of quiet that comes after truth. Elijah stood, faced the crowd. I don't want your pity, he said. I want your promise. That next time, when silence feels safe, you don't choose it. He looked straight into the camera, and for the first time, everyone saw him. What do you think was justice served, or does this go deeper? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who was right? Who was wrong? And if you believe in dignity, in truth, in speaking out, like, subscribe and share this story. Let's not wait for another cane to break.